for joining in this conversation. Let me first start. It's been, some time since you have been teaching our students. So first of all, how did you like your stay? How did you like your visit?
Well, I think it's a compliment to say how fast it's gone by. That's probably a good indication that it's gone very well. It's been a fantastic experience. The students are very engaged, and I've learned a lot from them because, of course, they bring their experiences and their examples to the classroom, so that's been fantastic. And it is, as an academic, it's a real treat to have what sort of feels like a writing retreat, and you come and somebody else is worrying about the cooking and somebody else is worrying about making the bed, and you can focus on thinking and writing and teaching, and it's been lovely.
Yeah, I always find it difficult when I'm teaching to also do research or writing. If you manage to do it, I think that's great. So I just wanted to also ask you about the course that you taught and how it fits in with the program, which is on sports management.
Yeah, so it's a component of the sport management program, and it focuses on sociology, which half of the module focuses on the social production of sport, and I teach the half on the social consumption of sport. And fundamentally, if you are thinking of going into sport management, you are going to be working with consumers as your target audience, as in part your employees, your associates, etc. And so thinking about them as consumers, having some insight into what makes them tick, if I put it that way, can be very useful. It also highlights that if you don't think of people as consumers and what they want as a consumer and rightfully demand as a consumer, you are in all likelihood going to fail in whatever strategy you're trying to implement because people are not passively there to be worked upon. So it's a part of the course that allows them to develop a sociological imagination and to use that as a tool going forward.
Wonderful. So, I'm going to ask you a very naive question. Because it may be in the minds of a lot of people who really don't know about research and sports management research particularly. So what's the link between sociology or social science and sports?
What isn't the link? I could say that. Well, if you think of sport as an activity that we have done together as humanity for many, many generations, and you treat it only as something that is in the present day, then you will miss all of the ritual and history and tradition and meaning that is bound up with sport. And that's what sociology does, and social science more broadly. It takes what we often consider in the sort of fetishized way of thinking of ourselves as the only thing that's ever walked the earth, or the things that we know, the sports we know as the absolute expression of that activity, and it says, look at this long social history, look at what's so deeply embedded in people's assumptions. And giving people that capacity to think sociologically means they're much more likely to see the big picture and to appreciate the complexities of daily life. Therefore, hopefully, better sport managers.
So, in other words, to really understand why sports is appealing or why it appeals to people, and also to understand how to revive some sports and understand how the history of sports over a period of time, all that you can better understand with a good idea of sociology or social science in general. Am I right?
Ravi, you should have been in the classroom. Absolutely. But this is exactly it. And I like very much to have an interactive classroom, and I try to pose as often as possible challenges to the students to think, right, you know that about sport. What could you do with the knowledge you've just gained to develop sports that don't yet exist, or develop sports that are, as you say, sort of forgotten and in the past? What are there waiting to be revived? Or how might we develop sports in a way that is more inclusive? And again, sociologically thinking means you are approaching people as a set of values, beliefs, ideas, identities, and trying to work through those capacities of people. You're much more likely to get them on board and to make different sports sticky for them, to get them to invest in them.
Yeah, absolutely. So one related question is, so when you're looking at sports management, and if you look at what are the needs of the industry and whether this program or any program is focused on it, so how do you see today sports management training evolving, or how it should be?
Yeah, and this is a question I think not just for sport management, but management more broadly. If you take a textbook approach to teaching management, your skills are almost immediately out of date.
Absolutely.
Things are changing so fast. So how do you equip, how do you future-proof people? How do you answer the needs of industry? You equip them with the ability to think critically. You equip them with the ability to ask good questions and to think outside the box, which is a very hackneyed phrase. But fundamentally, a sociological imagination means you step back and go, right, what's the big picture here? And if you are to think about developing sport managers for the future, that's what they're equipped with. They're equipped with the ability to understand sport as a complex social phenomena. They're equipped with the ability to work through and with people's existing values and skills and beliefs and practices and channel them possibly in new directions. But that's what is the skill that I think sees people through changing times, and things are changing around us constantly.
And so that underlines the importance of the pedagogy, or the type of the ways in which we teach them or
Yes.
make them learn. And of course, in our school, we are trying to do it in a way that all these critical thinking skills, etc., are inculcated. And not many schools in India actually do it. So how do you find our students coping with it? For example, are they being interactive? I mean, of course, they have done it a little bit, but still it's early days. So how do you find our class?
Your class, I would say my class, it has been a very good week with them. They are very engaged and are very willing to open up their minds to a sociological imagination. So that's the first step, because that's not something you can take for granted. But second, in terms of how do they engage with it, they have been incredibly receptive to my determination to introduce them to the idea of research. So it's not just, here are the concepts from sociology. It's, how does sociological knowledge get produced? Because if you understand research from that point of view, you could be a producer of research, you could actually get involved with research, but equally you're much more likely to be a critical consumer of research. And as you go into sport management, you will be flooded with marketing data and surveys and so on and so forth. And it's being able to push back against that a little bit and say, I have a good idea of how the complexities of sport unfold. What data do I need? What are the failings of some of that research that exists, which tends to take consumers as passive robots, and possibly ask for some new research yourself. So I think, yeah, they've been very receptive, and I'm hoping that I've maybe sparked some interest in research for a few of them. I think from a few lunchtime conversations, that is the case.
No, that's great. I mean, in fact, that was my next question, which is, what are the typical ways in which a sports management, postgraduate, like our program can get into, and then, finally, what kind of research avenues they exist, that exist for them? Yeah,
I mean, of course, research doesn't just happen in universities or educational institutions. It happens in marketing and consulting. It happens in sport federations. It happens in government departments.
Absolutely.
So the skills of research in terms of being able to ask good questions, to identify what we don't know, to identify the tools by which we could find out more, and then the tools by which we analyze and interpret those findings vis-a-vis what we want to know and to accomplish. Those research skills could be deployed across a range of fields, not just within sport management, but as I say, within the university sector, but equally within think tanks and policy institutes and within federations. A lot of research gets done in-house in many organizations.
Correct.
So as a skill set, being able to think about research as something that you are a critical producer and consumer of is, I think, quite an employable skill.
Yeah, and it can be used in sports analytics, consulting firms, and if a few people choose, they can even go for, PhD or...
Exactly. Yes. One day there'll be a PhD with the front saying, I'm so thankful that Jennifer taught me sociology at Jio.
I'm sure someone will, I have no doubt about that. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and I hope the rest of your visit to India goes great, and also have a very safe and pleasant trip back home.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.